sessions. Our previous sessions have been posted on YouTube that you can follow there. But with that, I will turn it off to Rosalie to let her get things started.
Thanks, Matt. Good evening, everyone. It is so nice to be with you. Thank you for taking your time to want to learn more or just engage with other families about this topic of letting go. Is that really possible? It's really a time to just talk about the transition and what we're going to, what you all can look forward to in the next month or so as your student comes to Seton Hill. So before we get started, and I know a lot of people are not on camera and that is okay, but for the folks that have chosen to be, I just want to get a sense of who has joined the call tonight. For how many of you is this your first child going off to college? This is the first one. I should have known. And a thumbs up. Thank you.
Yeah, you can hit the reaction button up at the bottom of your screen to add a reaction.
Yes, fantastic. So for many of you, those that gave the indication, lots of you. Oh my goodness. Okay, so those are the first ones. What about those of you that this is the last one? Last one out of the house, last one. Oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna come back to you guys in a minute. Oh good, okay, so, oh yes, the applause. The applause are there. You've done it, congratulations. Last one. I don't want to forget about the middle children as well. This has happened before in your family, but you still have some more at home. The middle child reaction. All right. And then any of you that this is your first and only. So yeah, I saw that family. Yeah. Oh, okay, good. So I always say when I ask this question, oh, there's a lot of you, that is 5. I always say when I ask this that we'll have extra tissues for you at move-in. I know this especially is a big thing, especially if they're going to be a residential student with us. It's a very special time. So I would be remiss if I didn't say that this is a very tricky time. I know that there is a lot going on since March. Families have been managing this in very different ways. People's work life has been in flux. We know what reactions are now on Zoom, probably because this has been our life. Our backs are a little sore from sitting all the time and working in this fashion. I know this has affected a lot of families personally with COVID cases in their home, and we will talk about that tonight as much as you want to, and also try to just talk about the transition of what it's like for a student to go off to college. So my last question is, how many of you will have commuter students? And you are very important families to our community. So give me some reactions if you're gonna have commuting students who are not gonna be living with us in the halls. Oh, all of you are residential. If people are slow on the reactions, that's okay, but it looks like all of you are residential, so that is great. We're so excited to be able to host your student, and they're about to share a room in a 10 by 10 space with a stranger. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that transition too, because living with a roommate is an important life skill. Okay, so we're gonna transition now to a little bit of a PowerPoint, or I can just chat the whole time, and I wanna keep us on time and keep us focused. Matt knows me, that's why he's laughing. I love talking about our students. So Matt, will you put up our PowerPoint and then we'll kind of go through this. And families, don't hesitate to ask questions into Matt, and we will kind of go through those at the end. I'll make sure we leave time for that. Absolutely, perfect. So, so let's talk about this shift. And it doesn't always happen. For some of you, it may have already happened. So the shift I'm talking about is going from being a parent to working with your student as their partner. I try to think about when and if that ever happened in my family. For my father, I was always the child. With my mother, I became a partner probably as a young adult. And think about that with you. Did you ever have that shift in your family from when your parents kind of became your partner in their process? This is different for everyone. This is also different per child. So for those of you who have had other children go off to school, that does not mean that this transition is going to be the same for this child. So it's important to trust your instincts, and work with your student as individually as possible. This is also a mutual process. As much as they may talk about how excited they are, they're also totally nervous and really anxious, and they are navigating a shift too, from always being with you and always relying on you to having this more independent lifestyle. So it's mutual for them, this shift that they're going to be going through. And it's a transition for everyone. Other siblings, I don't see any on the screen, but oftentimes we have other younger siblings that come. This is a big transition for them. It's a transition for your pets in your house oftentimes, and for your student to lose their pet from being with them. And that's a big transition too. So this is a transition for everyone, especially this year. COVID-19 has really taken our world and flipped it upside down in many different ways. And this will be a transition for everyone to work through. So we look forward to navigating that together, and this shift in parent to partner as we go. So I want to share with you kind of how the student affairs team operates. Here's what we know about your student. This generation, Generation Z, I'm happy to let you know, you are not parents of at least this student coming to us now. They're not millennials. They are considered Generation Z. So those of you that this is first and only, if you have some free time and like to read or do audiobooks, there's a great book about Generation Z when Generation Z goes to college. And it's really positive. While this generation wants convenient now, right? They pay with things with their phones. It is amazing what they have grown up with. They have high expectations. They expect high levels of service. They are enamored with their technology. I don't know if it was a big exciting thing in your house when the students got their MacBooks. But we got videos of students opening their MacBooks. We got them turning it on for the first time. There was a very big deal with technology. They bring an average of 4 or 5 devices with them to campus. That was not the case when I was a college student. I had a cell phone that I could use on emergencies only, and I had you watched your minutes and all those. I mean, you remember these students now, it is different with their use of technology. And I'd ask, what do you think they do 86 times a day? And it's actually just check their phone. It's not text. It's not be on TikTok. They just check it to see, they turn it on, just to see if they have any notifications. So they have access to all sorts of information. But are they analyzing it? Are they critically thinking about it? And that's something that we strive to help them with. On a very positive note, this generation is incredibly we-centric. They are very empathetic. They are very accepting. They do not understand hate. They do not understand the intolerance that they see. They fight for social justice. They are advocates for each other, and it is a very we-centric, community-oriented generation. And we especially see that at Seton Hill. We're so appreciative. Something they also have is some grade inflation. So this data back in 1969, only 7% of college students would average, high school students had an average of A- or higher. Well, now we have over 41% of high school students across the nation with that grades. So very few students, when they are accepted to Seton Hill, have ever gotten a C before, ever. So what we need to remember in our academic environment is C is average. So for a lot of students, they are not used to being average. But when you take the top 20% of high school students and put them into a classroom, somebody's got to be average. So the first semester can be very challenging academically for students, especially those that are used to doing very well. And they're going to need to work harder. They're going to need to spend more hours studying than they might be used to. Some of them come in here with 4.3 GPAs and don't really ever have to crack a book. we'd be doing them a disservice if the academic rigor wasn't to a place where they needed to study. And we kind of flip-flop from high school to college, right? In high school, they probably went to school about 35 hours a week. And maybe out of the classroom, they're studying anywhere from 0 to 15 or so. Those that are in, some will study more than that. That's about average. Well, in college, we flip-flop that. If you think about it, your student is probably taking anywhere from 12 to 15, 16 hours of class in a classroom. And we're expecting them to do the inverse, study 30 to 35 hours a week. So it is a complete inverse in how they spend their time. If they have class Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they are completing and comprehending what would happen in probably 2 weeks of high school. So it's very important that they understand that they are ready for that. And we also, as family members, understand they may get a C on a paper and they may get a C on their first biology exam. So I'm just putting it out there. You can manage that in your house if that happens. What we also know about this generation is they're more connected, but also more isolated. And that was even before COVID. So they're more connected with their technology, right? Their group is with them at all times. They are, 2 thumbs away from being with them at all times. But they're also more isolated. They are highly social networked, but have weaker face-to-face skills. And we will work on that with them as much as we can in smaller groups this year and, in smaller ways of doing that. But we will work beginning at orientation to get them comfortable introducing themselves to each other, to get them comfortable socializing with each other in that way. They've also lost the psychological space to make mistakes because social media lives with them forever. So maybe when we were in high school or when we were younger, not everybody had a camera, not everything was photographed, not everybody had a video. They've lost some of that, and they need to also understand that their choices that can be videoed or photographed at any time now will live with them forever. So I'm sure you've had some conversations with them about that, but the social media, what they put on it and how they carry themselves are really, really important. So that's what we know about this generation. That's okay, Matt. He's like, I clicked the wrong way. Here's what we also know. They're a little more immature, a little more coddled, and a little more protected than some other generations. And I see some of you are on camera laughing a little bit. Gone are the days often now where kids are out skidding their knees, right? I mean, there's elbow pads and knee pads for a tricycle, and you've got to wear a helmet. And I'm going to use this as a metaphor. I think your students are probably going to scrape their knees their first semester in college, whether it's a C, whether it's a heartbreak, whether it's something that happens. Your students probably going to scrape their knees, and they're not used to that because we've protected them a little bit. We've helped take care of them a little bit. So it's important to remember that while this is a very we-centric generation of compassionate people, we also have coddled them a little bit, and they're going to make some mistakes. And I think that's okay. I believe it's okay, because that's how we learn from that. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about our philosophy, and Matt's going to pull up a video to kind of illustrate this for a minute. So once we get going, I'm going to just be quiet. It's about a minute long, and we'll just watch it together.
Whoa, I That's not good.
Oh, I don't need this. I'm already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody out there?
Do you have a phone?
No. Sorry. Somebody! Hello? There are 2 people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, would somebody please do something?
Help! Help! Help!
I don't believe this. You gotta be kidding me.
I'm gonna cry.
Well, there's not enough left to do, is it?
All right. So probably if all your microphones were on, I think there'd be a couple chuckles here and there. I see a lot of smiles. And how this relates to us is that, and I still laugh every time I see it, these are grown people, right? And I think all of us watching this had a very quick reaction to what they could do to help themselves, right? Let's just walk up the steps, folks. It's okay. And really what we pride ourselves on at Seton Hill is a balance of challenge and support. And what we want to avoid at all costs is that your student becomes a 35-year-old adult that gets stuck on an escalator. So it's very important that we coach our students to solve their problems, because they will have them. And it's very important that, and you know who you are, if you are the parent that always comes to the rescue, that thinks you're, and I'll say your child, right? I've used student very consciously tonight. Your child, our student, that the student is too busy to handle their problem, that you're gonna handle it for them. Each time we do that, the student has the ability to get stuck on that escalator. So here's what I'm going to tell you. If your student has trouble, all they need to do is walk through anyone's door. The institution is here to help. I hope you have found that going into it. We answer phones, we answer emails, we respond. We take time to do things like this because we love to connect with people. We truly care about our students and their families as a community. If that student lets us know they're struggling with something, or we sense they're struggling with something, that assistance will be there. They may call you and say, I went and talked to Residence Life and they are not helpful. Helpful does not always mean that we solve their problem exactly the way they wanted it, right? The first time they have an argument with their roommate, it's not time for a roommate change, right? I've been married 22 years. If the first time my roommate and I had a conflict, that would be a problem, right? So we have to, we really work with the student to help empower them to solve their problem. We're gonna ask them questions. What is one thing you could do right now that would make a big difference? Have you talked to your roommate about this? How can we help you prepare for that conversation? Okay, so we really want to put this life skill on our students to do well. So this is our philosophy a little bit. So sometimes if they're like, they're not helpful, that may mean something different to them than it does to us. And if you really feel like that you guys are not being helpful, just call us. Just call the institution, call me, email me, call any one of the staff. We are really here to help. So I hope that little video was helpful. So what could happen? What are some of the things our first year students do tend to struggle with? Here are some of the things. I've already mentioned it, especially because we're all residential here. Roommate conflicts. You know, I'm not sure how many of you have students that share rooms now with anyone, but it's usually a very small percentage. It's a very small percentage of students who actually share rooms currently. So they move into a 10 by 10, 12 by 12 space with a stranger, and this is where important conversations happen. but conflicts happen too, and we're there to help them. So that can happen. And what are you gonna say when they call you or text you with like the angry emoji face that they got in a fight with their roommate, or I'm so angry, or I'm so upset? What are you going to do when they do that? What's your response to that? So you will probably meet them at move-in in some way, and you'll think they're very nice, and a month later, all of a sudden, they'll become a horrible person. The honeymoon ends, but then they work it out, and it tends to go well. Heartbreak. I don't know how many of you all have sons or daughters coming with relationships. That doesn't always sustain in the way perhaps either party thought. Some of them will begin dating people here. Some of them will have crushes. They call them dining hall boyfriends and girlfriends all the time. These dining hall people that they just kind of, I hope they're in the dining hall. So heartbreak will happen, and what will happen when you get that message. First, academic disappointment or failure, we've kind of touched on that. Homesickness. Homesickness will happen. They may not always tell you because they're going to want you to think that they're okay. I will especially say to parents of male students, they tell you even less often than the female students do. And just know that they miss you. And I'll leave that there. What happens when they don't feel well? And we're going to leave COVID out. But when they don't feel well, they have a stomach ache and they have a headache and they're not sure what to do. And when I ask them, like, what's going on? They're like, I don't know. My mom always gives me like these 2 pink pills and some ginger ale. Like, if you have some home remedies, please send your student with a little first aid kit, a medical kit of the little pink pills, and some ginger ale, so they know it. Like, take this when you have a headache. Take this when your stomach hurts. Take that. Like, please help them out, because they honestly sometimes don't know what to do. They can obviously go to the nurse. They can obviously do that, but sometimes just a little self-care will help them. Make sure that they understand and have a copy of their medical insurance card. If something happens and they sprain their knee or twist an ankle and they do need to go to the hospital, that they have their insurance card and they're able to present that to them. And then also, this is just a plug for your medical immunizations that you need for the institution. This is a non-negotiable. You all have residential students, and you will not be issued keys on move-in day if the immunizations are not complete. We take the health and safety of our campus really seriously, and immunizations are a piece of that. So it's very important that you go into MedProctor, you get that all completed, you are verified, and that they're ready to move in. Any questions about that, you can contact health services for sure. They're also going to contact you. I can guarantee this is going to happen. They're going to be totally overwhelmed and completely bored at the same time. Like, oh my God, I have so much to do, and there's nothing to do at the exact same time. And you're going to be confused about how this happens. And I'm confused when they tell me, but it is just a thing that will happen. It's also going to be a little different this year. And I don't know how many of your students are athletes, especially fall sport athletes. A big part of our campus culture is athletics, and we will not have any fall sport competitions. Saturday football games and Friday volleyball games and the soccer games on the weekends. That's something that a lot of our students go to. So it's going to be very different. And we're not in a position to have large group gatherings. So we used to have karaoke night. And I know that sounds crazy, but Matt's laughing because that is a huge Seton Hill tradition. Like 400 students would pack the dining hall for karaoke night once a month. They did Disney karaoke. They did old school, which was like 90s. I was like, really? Okay, 90s music karaoke. In any event, we're not going to be able to do that. But what we did in the spring when students went online is we actually did Instagram live karaoke, and we had like 300 students watching karaoke that way. So we've pivoted a lot, and I hate that word, but we've changed a lot of how we engage. But at some point, they're going to be overwhelmed and bored at the same time. I also would encourage you to discuss living on a budget and what that means for your family. Conversations about money are challenging, but they're really important to have. There are going to be students at Seton Hill who have more means than your student, and there are going to be students at Seton Hill with less means than your student. And the only way for your student to know where they fit in is to have a conversation. Are they working this summer and saving their money and they're going to use their money as spend money? Are you guys going to supplement them as needed? Do they get $10 a week, $25 a week? How is that going to work? Because we provide a lot on campus. They'll get their meals on campus, but they could go to Chipotle and Chick-fil-A and Starbucks all the time. And you know your students, so just talk to them about living on a budget. The other thing I want to mention is if they have not done a load of laundry yet on their own, I encourage you to have them practice very quickly. The laundry machines at school are free. They do not need to put quarters in them. They do not need a laundry card. And we've done this for a couple of reasons. We don't want the laundry machines overpacked because they're trying to save some money. And we want them, especially now, to keep their stuff, their sheets, their towels as clean as possible. The other thing I will mention about laundry is that our university color, and I appreciate you, sir, wearing your Seton Hill shirt. Those of you that can see it, yes, those of you that can see him, just a friendly reminder, the color is red. The color is red. So I'm just putting that in the conversation with the laundry so you know where I'm going with this, because that could throw the budget off if you're buying all new stuff because all of a sudden everything that they washed is now pink. So please help your student. Make sure they've done a couple loads of laundry prior to moving to campus. And the other thing I would say, a very common transition, is social anxiety. There are students here that most of our students, and they're all going to think it's not true. Most of our students come here knowing no one, knowing not a soul. But somehow they all think everyone knows everybody, and I'm the only one who came here not knowing. And Matt's like laughing and nodding because this is so true. So students get very nervous, especially in the dining hall. For some reason, that's where the social anxiety ramps up. Please reassure them to just say, hey, anybody sitting here? We are very communal in nature. Everyone is welcome at the table. There is always room for more. And that's how students make friends. But honestly, so many of them have this same anxiety. When you ask students what they're most excited about in starting college, they'll say meeting new people. And when you ask them what they're most nervous about in starting college, they say meeting new people. So it's this real double-edged sword. So all these things I share with you in the couple weeks before we have move in to try to, again, help them up that escalator. And here's what we also understand. Transitioning to college, moving away from home, living on your own for the first time, taking classes that are harder, meeting new people, all of it is an emotional roller coaster. And we get it, and we ride it with them every step of the way. Take comfort in the adults that you have raised. Take comfort in the adults that other people have raised. I have worked at 6 other institutions across the country. I can honestly say I would want my child to come to school here, of all the places, because of the people, because of the students, how respectful they are, how genuine they are, how caring they are. And the faculty and staff are really top shelf professionals, extremely competent and capable professionals, but also caring. So take comfort in that, in the adult you've raised and in the group of people they'll be surrounded with. Try to minimize, these are the best years of your life speeches when they call you and are overwhelmed and bored at the same time. I'm just going to put that out there. That's not always helpful in the conversation. Be prepared for a lot of different things this fall. We are prepared to open as safe as possible. We are prepared with extra cleaning. We have prepared with an additional nurse on staff. We are prepared with masks and thermometer checks, and we are prepared. We're also prepared that if we may need to close this campus to maintain safety, that we will need to do that. So we also need to be prepared to get our students home if that is the case. Last March, we permitted students to stay and worked with them individually, international students, students from hot spots, hotter than Greensburg. We were very good. We've maintained very low. We had a couple of students from New York City, and they're like, I don't, and my family doesn't. We kept them. We fed them. We kept them in the residence hall. We made it work until they were ready to transition home. But be prepared if the university needs to close for any reason, that we're ready to get our children home. And we understand this is a scary time. I can't underscore enough what the university, the steps we've taken, and how we feel about the responsibility of bringing students back, the responsibility to our faculty and staff community as well, and to their families to be as safe as possible. When your students come to you, ask good questions before you offer advice, maybe. Again, I try to rattle off those three. What is one thing you could do right now that would make a big difference? Have you had a conversation with your faculty member, with your roommate, with your coach, with your teammate, with your friend, with your supervisor? How can I help you get ready for that conversation? Those are some good questions. Be a coach, be an anchor. And like I've said before, know they miss you too. They don't always say it. But I've been in higher education now for over 20 years, and they miss you. They miss you at traditions. They miss you at apple picking. They miss you at birthdays, other people's birthdays. They will miss you. They miss you too. So that concludes. They're going to graduate. That's my photo of the hope for the future, that we will have in-person graduation in 4 years. Some maybe 3.5, some maybe 4.5. We accept it all. But we will celebrate commencement together. That is the hope. I've appreciated your time and attention. Let me see if Matt did get any questions in the chat. Feel free to send them, and we'll see kind of where we are.
I do not have any questions at the moment, and so if you have any questions that you'd like to send in, feel free to use the text.
That means that you did an outstanding job or a horrific job, and they are ready to get off the call. I'm not sure. For my ego, I'm going to go with the first one. I'm just not sure, but I'm going to go there because it's been a crazy couple months, so I'm going to go there. Well, if we don't have any in the chat, that's absolutely acceptable. I completely appreciate your time. I appreciate your trust, especially this semester. Sending your student away to college is a big transition for any family. It is our honor and privilege. I think your student will have some bobbles, but at the end of the day, this is a great place to be, and we look forward to having them continuing their development and their education.
Great question, and keep them coming in as we ask them and we're answering them so we can follow up with you. Question here about visiting, and so how do we go about instructing family members with visiting their students on campus?
That's a great question. So yes, you are welcome to visit. Just don't go in the residence halls. No. So we are limiting visitors this year. So the best way to visit is to come pick up your student. We are asking for guests who are not Seton Hill students to not enter the residence halls after move-in. So if you need to bring them some stuff, if they forgot some stuff, if you're going to bring them a package, go to Walmart for them, fill up stuff, just ask them to come out and get it. It's another safety procedure for us. It's another safety precaution. If we had fall sports or things like that, it would look different. If we do have events, we will have temperature checking and we'll allow people to come in as guests if we have official events. You are welcome to park your car, meet your student at a picnic table, bench, have lunch, walk around, do whatever you want to do outside, take them shopping. It's usually what they want to do, go eat. And you can visit and catch up that way. But we're really trying to limit additional folks and people in the spaces for our community, just because. So good question about visiting. Come often, pick them up.
So we did have a question about someone who was unable to find COVID testing in their area, if there's any guidance for those individuals who are finding it difficult where they're at now to get tested.
Yeah, absolutely. So your student can get tested when they move in. We have testing all this week and this weekend, but if that's not accessible, if you live too far or have other commitments, we are doing testing the 10th through the 14th. For folks to move in. Some will come the day or two before they move in, and they'll stay in a hotel, or maybe they have family in the area, and then they can get tested on the 10th and the 11th, or the 12th, 13th, and 14th is available for testing as well. So we know this is a big shift. We have 12 days of on-campus testing. Some areas it's very easy to get a test asymptomatic, and in some states and areas it's challenging, and we know that. So that's why we're offering those 12 days of testing.
So yes, there was clarification then asking students are required to get testing prior to move-in.
Yes. Correct. If the test results are not back, like if they need to wait until move-in, then we're going to test them before they get their keys. We have like a drive-through set up. Literally, we're doing it right now. We tested 154 people yesterday and 170 today. So we have 320 students already tested, which is great. The students will do the drive-through. They don't even get out of the car. The nurse can swab them right in the car, and then they'll be able to drive to their residence hall. And what we ask them to do then for the next couple of days until those results come back is stay quarantined in their space. And we'll know who they are. We'll have meals delivered to them. They'll be able to, be with their roommate and those kinds of things, but they need to keep their masks on and do that. So we know that's tricky for everyone, but that's the best plan. We're gonna ask them to quarantine until they get their results back.
So we had a question, if a family member finds out that their student did test positive, is there anything that they can do or how to help that student through quarantine?
That's wonderful. So there's a couple of things. If a student tests positive prior to move in, we're going to keep them home, right? They're not going to come to school. We'll keep them home, and then we'll be able to clear them 10 days after their last symptoms. The CDC guidelines have just changed on that. So it's 10 days after the last symptom, and on the last day, they have to be fever-free. So that's prior. If a student is positive and they are on campus, if they are able to go back home, that is great. If they need to stay at the institution, we will absolutely keep them at the institution. And we have separate spaces that students will go to that are separate for quarantine or isolation. We'll have meal delivery set up. We'll have an on-call, like any type of emergency for RAs. We'll have a phone number that we give them. And then one of our nurses will do a telemedicine appointment with them. That's, again, like the perks of the laptops are amazing. They'll do a telemedicine check-in with them every day and ask them how they're doing. We'll give them a thermometer to check their temperature, and we'll give them food and drinks and try to keep them as comfortable as possible. Their classes, for the most part, faculty will be able to work with them. The more challenging majors are some of the sciences with the labs, and then some of the art. It's hard to do ceramics not in studio. But for the most part, even those faculty have done some amazing work in being able to accommodate students that way. So the most helpful thing could be perhaps getting your student home. But if that's not an option, then we should have it. We should have it for them. Thank you. That's a great question.
Had a question about move-in and then welcome weekend. And so I can answer that. And if you have anything to supplement, Rosalie. So move-in on your move-in day, whether it's the 12th, 13th, or 14th, we will have staff members strategically placed at certain intersections on campus to help direct you, coming up Seton Hill Drive, making sure from there we know what residence hall they're headed off to, where they will be directed by many of our orientation leaders and other staff members to get as close as they can to the residence hall. From there, we will help you in pulling up to the curb at an appropriate spot. Again, we'll have many staff members directing you. Your student will be able to exit to check in, get their key, while you will be able to then get your belongings out of the car, and two guests, and yes, family members, but two guests will be able to assist the students in moving belongings into the residence hall. And so all along the way, we will help you in where to move your car, where to park, when you're done unloading, where you can go from there. And so that will be the gist of the move-in process. We will have staff strategically placed to be able to help you know where to go and then unload your belongings and help your student move that in. Anything else to add, Rosalie, on the move-in part process? Yeah. They'll get their key, they'll get their ID card. So that's, again, where we're asking students to make sure they submit their ID photo online. They will get their ID when they pick up their key. There will be locations for them later to pick up their parking pass. And then from there, if your student arrives on Wednesday or Thursday, we will have opportunities through the resident assistants to help our students with connecting with one another, having things to do at night, during the day, being able to explore campus. Then from a structured standpoint, we consider that the Seton Hill experience begins Friday at 3 o'clock. So at Friday at 3 o'clock is the beginning of Welcome Weekend. The schedule will be released to them later in a few days here, but we will have events from 3 o'clock on Friday all through Friday night, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday. All of our first-year students who are in the Connections class, which is our first-year seminar class, they will have a class meeting on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with their upperclassman class mentor, who will work with their 20-student class for the Connections class throughout the entire semester. So they will have meetings every day with their class. We will have various sessions with presenters, which will help them understand, again, certain offices and resources from the university. Then we will have many opportunities for our students to connect with one another from an appropriate distance outside. We will have movie nights, we will have comedians, we will have opportunities for them to make certain things to decorate their room. We will have many opportunities for them to engage from 3 o'clock Friday all the way through Saturday and Sunday. The dining hall, so yes, the dining hall will be open when students arrive to campus. So when your student arrives, they will be able to access their meal plan in the dining hall. Monday through Friday, it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Saturday and Sunday, it is brunch and dinner. If we have any family members of commuter students, for Welcome Weekend, we do provide meals for our commuter students. We want to make sure that our commuter students are a part of Welcome Weekend and feel welcome. So we provide meals for commuter students from dinner on Friday, all through Saturday, and all through Sunday. So how many days prior to move-in can they be tested? And so like Rosalie mentioned, we had tested that started yesterday, and we'll run through this weekend, and then we'll pick back up on the 10th again. Anything else to add to that?
No, if they were talking about on-campus testing, that goes this week until the 2nd, and then as Matt said, we pick up again on the 10th. That's for on-campus testing. But they can begin getting tested if they can do offsite testing anywhere starting now, and then they just email the results to Health Services. We also know that for some folks that there might be a cost associated with that. So we will reimburse families who pay out of pocket to do that $100. So when you submit the results for the offsite test, also just submit a receipt and we will reimburse students $100.
We had great, more detailed questions for the move-in process. And so as of this moment, to help protect everyone, we do not have anyone who will physically pick up your student's belongings besides your student or whoever is with them. So we definitely suggest bringing any type of dolly to help push, or furniture dollies to help pull any of the belongings that you have. Havey Hall and Brownlee Hall do not have elevators. Mara Hall, if you have a student moving into Mara, there's an elevator that takes them to the 3rd floor. But then from the 3rd, they would need to carry anything up to the 4th floor that they have from there. And then if we have anyone living in DeShantel Hall, there is an elevator in that. But that is an important thing to note is again, to try and keep everyone as safe as possible. Normally what actually ends up happening is our athletes who arrive to campus earlier are the ones who really help us on move-in. And because our fall sports have been delayed, we will not have any early arrivals. So our first-year students are actually the first people arriving to campus, with the exception of our orientation leaders and our resident assistants. So when our first-year students arrive, we will have 2 groups of student leaders who will help them through all of that process. But in terms of having move-in help, again, in terms of having students on campus and for everyone's safety, we will not have anyone touching or carrying your students' belongings. And so this one, I don't know, although sports are postponed, is training starting prior, or how will training happen? So that might be more of a coach question, unless you have any insight into training for athletes.
Yeah, so things like practice, weightlifting, position, skill meetings, clinics type stuff with the coaches is permitted to happen at this time through the conference, which is PSAC conference. So yes, the students will be training with their teams, and there will be a date set where they can start. They're calling it re-socialization, so they will be staggering in times. So September 1 or September 15th would be when they would begin training again. So I know they're ready and excited. We're ready to have them back. And it was tough for spring sports. Our coaches have been through it with the spring sports. Our lacrosse team started 6-0, and then that ended. And so now our fall sport coaches are in the middle. And if you're a winter sport athlete, basketball, wrestling, they're looking to begin competition in the beginning of January. So just a few updates on that. So yeah, disappointing on many levels, but probably the right call.
Rosalie, I don't have this information off the top of my head. The dates and times for campus testing, is that available on a website or somewhere they might be able to go to be able to pull that information up?
Well, I happen to know lots of fun facts, so I can I can share that quickly. But the students should have gotten an email from President Finger regarding all the dates and times. So the remaining days and times, tomorrow's Wednesday, right? Yes.
Yep.
Tomorrow testing is available from 9 to 5 on Wednesday, from 9 to 5 on Thursday, from 9 to 4 on Friday, just 1 hour early. And then this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, testing is available from 10 to 4. Outside of the very first day and the first 30 minutes, we have not really had a wait time, maybe 2 to 3 minutes to queue up. You stay in the car. The students are given a paper to fill out their name. They go to one of the nurses. They're able to then get the swab. This nurse collects the sample, puts the paperwork. Somebody brings it over to the table. The student gets a lollipop, and then you are on your way, because that's what any good doctor's office does. So we have like hundreds of dum-dums. Then on the week of the 10th, August 10th, that testing is from 8 to 3. And it ends a little bit earlier because move-in is from 8 to 4. So that way students can come get their testing and go to move-in, and Res Life will still be available. Students will be able to get their keys. They will get things inside. So the week of the 10th then, every day, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 is 8 to 3. It's really weird.
Do we know how long the test results typically come in if they're done on campus?
3 to 5 days is what we've been told by the laboratory. So those of you that have kept an eye on it in your area, the times have been increased over time due to the increase in testing. Pennsylvania, New York, and Ohio, I think, were the 3 states that required nursing home testing regularly. So that increased waiting time because the labs just got backed up. And we're also last on the list to test. So when a lab gets a batch of tests, the first ones that get tested are symptomatic healthcare workers. The second ones are nursing home. The third ones are symptomatic individuals. And then the fourth ones are routine testing. And that's kind of where we fit right now. If a student comes and says, I am feeling symptomatic, then we put that on the slip, and that changes their, piece in the queue. But for right now, what we've been told is 3 to 5 days. So that's pretty good.
Good parent. I remember my mom doing this as well, asking, will we need to clean the residence hall rooms prior to putting our students' belongings in there? And so we have our staff who will be taking care of cleaning in there as well.
Yeah, those rooms will come to you clean. We ask It's not always perfect, but we do ask that students try to leave it also relatively clean, kind of like they found it. But yeah, your rooms will be clean. Our custodial team is pretty fantastic, and they will go in and clean. They've been going in and cleaning all summer, and they'll go in and do a refresh too in the next week or so.
As for a clarification, so Brownlee and Havey Hall do not have elevators. Those are both 3-story residence halls, so both of them do not have elevators. Mara has an elevator that will get you from the ground floor to the 3rd floor, but then getting to the 4th or 5th does not have an elevator.
Yeah, you have to remember we're over 100 years old, so and some of our buildings are, so they weren't built with elevators. Our newer construction, DeChantal, Farrell, Sisters of Charity, the newer residence halls, kind of a little bit further from campus. If you've been just about on the hill, those all have elevators because they're newer construction. So the freshmen have to live there first, and then you get to make your choice if you want to move there.
And we had a question about testing on the day of arrival versus getting testing in advance, where it would be encouraged to get tested before arriving if possible, because that would eliminate the delay of getting your results in and then your student having to quarantine in their room until they get the results back. And we have exhausted our question list as of the moment.
Amazing. And we have 4 minutes to spare. That's a good conversation, y'all. Thank you. Those are good questions, and feel free to keep them coming. Matt put my email up in the first slide, but those of you that are writing, my name's Rosalie Carpenter, so my email is just rcarpenter at setonhill.edu. I'm happy to take questions. Email's the first thing I check in the morning. I'm happy to answer any of your questions about anything, and just feel free to email me at any time about your student or anything that you all have. I appreciate your time and attention. I appreciate the really good questions. Matt, I appreciate you as well, being the co-pilot tonight. Thank you for all of your assistance. I wish you all much success. I wish you as minimal stress as possible. I wish you sleep-filled nights. And much health and success in this transition. We're here with you. We will partner with you together. And I look forward to meeting you all in person with our masks on at move-in. I'll be the one with the Griffin mask, like 2,000 of my best friends. But I'll be out there, and I look forward to seeing you all. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Thank you guys so much. Matt, thank you.